Good afternoon to everyone joining us today from across different time zones. On behalf of Christ Deemed to be University, Bangalore, and the Office of Alumni Engagement, I extend a very warm welcome to each one of you to this special occasion, the inaugural session of the Christ Alumni Global Connect webinar series. It gives me immense pride and joy to mention that today's session is being hosted by the Australia chapter, marking the beginning of a global initiative that brings together our alumni community across borders. Our theme for today is the Complete Australia Roadmap Study, Work, and Internship, a session that promises to provide practical insights, guidance, and inspiration for all those aspiring to explore academic, professional, and personal opportunities in Australia. This Global Connect series has been envisioned as a bridge between our alumni's experiences worldwide and the aspirations of our students, faculties, and fellow graduates. It is not only about knowledge sharing, but also about celebrating the success stories of Christites who continue to create an impact globally. We are delighted to commence this journey with our Australia chapter, and I'm sure today's session will set a strong benchmark for the ones to follow. To formally open today's event, it is my honor to invite Brigadier Jagdish, Director of CPCG and the Office of Alumni Engagement, for the introductory note. Brigadier Sir, the virtual stage is all yours.
Thank you, Ms. Asta. And good afternoon and good morning, whatever time zones people are in. Greetings from the Office of Alumni Engagement and from the Christ University. I am Brigadier B.G. Jagdish, an alumni of Christ itself, passed out from Christ in 1983. And after a stint of 35 years in the Indian Army, I am back here in my alma mater to contribute in any which way I can. So I really thank Mr. Gaurav and Mr. Jenslie for taking this time out and to encourage our students, apprise our students with insights into various fields. So I'm very thankful to both of you and also to the mentor of the Australian chapter, Mr. Shiji Thomas, for have organized this talk today. So it is the vision of the Vice Chancellor that we have this global connections with the alumni, and alumni should network with each other, progress themselves, and they should also have a lifelong learning by opening up a lot of courses from the university online for the alumni. There are many more engagement activities which we are planning for the future. So in that connection, we have opened up inaugurated chapters in North America, in Canada, in Middle East, Australia. Now we are planning one in UK and also maybe in Singapore some time later, because there are a lot of alumni all over the globe. And it is very heartening to see that the alumni are willing to share their time and sacrifice the time for the students and become part of this great community of ours, the Alumni Connect. So it's a very nice thing that is happening. And last time when Dr. Johnny Joseph sir had gone to Australia, the inauguration happened. It was a nice event and a lot of things happened. So I thank all of them for have this inauguration as well as the initiatives being taken from there. So without much time, I'll just now hand over the stage to the speakers and let the audience hear from them directly. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Brigadier Jagdish Sir, for inspiring words and for highlighting the importance of alumni as a university's most valuable global ambassadors. With that, let us now move on to the most awaited part of today's program. We are privileged to have with us today two distinguished alumni of Christ who have made remarkable professional journeys in Australia and continue to inspire with their achievements. Our first speaker is Ms Jenslie George, who graduated with a Bachelor's in Commerce Honours in 2019 from Christ. Soon after, she moved to Melbourne, Australia to pursue a Master's in International Business at the University of Melbourne. Currently, she serves as the head of marketing and at sales at Diamond Developers, where she brings in strong expertise in sales, marketing, and business development, gained across diverse industries and geographies. Genslie has consistently demonstrated leadership, adaptability, and strategic skills that stand out in today's global marketplace. Beyond her professional career, Jenslie is also an accomplished classical dancer with over 15 years of experience, and she also enjoys music as a source of creativity and balance. Joining her is Mr. Gaurav Vemala, who graduated with a bachelor's in business management in 2006 from. He began his career at Goldman Sachs in Bangalore and has since accumulated near 20 years of diverse experience in the investment management sector. His roles have spanned across equity trading and research, portfolio management, client service, and currently he serves as the Vice President at Product Management at Asset Management Australia, specializing in Australian equities. Having moved to Australia in 2015, Gaurav Sir brings a wealth of professional expertise and personal insight into building a fulfilling career abroad. Outside work, he's passionate about running, salsa dancing, and engaging in sports, making him a true example of a well-rounded life. Together, they will be guiding us through today's session on navigating the roadmap of studying, working, and interning in Australia. To begin the session, may I now invite Ms Jenslie George to take us forward with her presentation. Over to you, Jenslie.
Thank you, Asta. I would firstly like to thank the college and Rishikesh sir for coordinating this event and for the opportunity. Excuse my throat, I'm still recovering from very bad cough and fever, so I might be coughing in between, but excuse me apart from that. And also, firstly, thank you to all of you for being here, taking time off your busy schedule. It's my pleasure to speak about my Australian experience and my journey as a student and also as a professional in the marketing space. I've been in Australia for about 6 years and I've now come back to Bangalore, India to join my family business, which is basically into land development and construction. So thank you, Asta, for giving me a bit about my introduction, but I'll just be touching upon a little bit about it so you kind of have an idea of what I'm going to say. So as mentioned in my introduction, I did my Bachelor of Commerce honors from Christ College from 2016 to 2019, after which I decided to do my master's very immediately at the University of Melbourne in Australia. So before I move to my journey, I do often get asked by my juniors, why did I choose to do my master's immediately after my university? Or should I do it immediately after my college? That's your undergrad. So for me, I think there is no right or wrong answer personally. The reason what made me do it immediately is because, one, I didn't want a gap year because I do know that I might get very comfortable with work life and just be like, oh, we'll think about masters later and maybe I'll never get to it. So that was one of my reasons. And the other one also, for me personally, in my course, it didn't require for me to have prior experience. Some courses like MBA, which is a Master's in Business Administration, require from university varies. It about asks you about 3 to 5 years of experience. I did my international business and it didn't require me to have prior experience. So I kind of knew I didn't need that real world experience in my this thing. But for those who still have that question, should I do it immediately or should I have a bit of experience and do it? It totally depends on what you're looking for or what the course you want. If your goal is to get ahead in terms of understanding, have a bit of real world experience which would help you understand the course better, absolutely agree for you to have a bit of experience, maybe say 2 or 3 years of experience in your preferred field and then go for a master's. But if you say that, no, it doesn't matter, I can understand at that capacity still. And if you're someone like me where you feel that you would get very comfortable in work life, then I would recommend going immediately. So yeah, so that's in terms of my opinion. So very briefly, I'll touch upon a few points also immediately, which might help you as well. So another point to why I also did it immediately is because Christ played a very crucial role in terms of helping me with my assignments in my master's. We call it CIAs in Christ. So there's a lot of research which goes into the assignments. You need to reference it. You need to reference this in certain style. So my peers didn't know how to do referencing because the universities or the colleges they studied never taught that. Whereas with Christ, our CIAs are integrated with pretty much referencing. You got to reference, you got to know what's plagiarism, you can't have a certain limit. So all of that kind of helped me personally with my journey. So Christ did contribute a lot in terms of that. So I didn't want to lose touch of how to do all of that, and then again learn about it and go about that. So which was also my reason to kind of finish it at one shot, and then I'll kind of get into the work environment or workspace after I do my master's. So that's very briefly of why I chose to do it, but it completely, like I said, depends on you as an individual, whether you want to take a break and then do it or do it immediately. But however, I'm happy to answer any questions later on in the session if there is any questions regarding this. So the very next step, once I kind of knew I wanted to do masters in Australia, was to find the university. And for me, that journey was pretty direct and pretty clear because I already knew the university I wanted and the course I wanted. The course I did was Masters in International Business, and the university is the University of Melbourne, like I said previously. So for me, the reason choosing University of Melbourne was two main reasons. Number one being, like everyone knows, it's ranked number one in Australia, and I'll cover why that mattered to me. The number two being the coursework. So every university in Australia, even though the title says Masters of International Business, it'll be offered by RMIT. I might just be throwing random universities, which you might have heard of or might not. But these are few universities in Australia. So RMIT, Australian National University, UNSW, all of these give Masters of International Business course to the students. But if you look at the coursework, the subject varies from university to university. And that's kind of very important for you as an individual to choose very carefully, because once you do it and once you're in it, it's very hard to swap from university. And when I looked at the coursework, for me, University of Melbourne coursework was the one which was more kind of relatable. And my purpose in terms of choosing this course was not just to go study, work, and come back. Work there and just like get the PR, because that's usual trajectory. For me, it was more like study, build network, and kind of come back and apply it in my business, or at least expand the business to Australia. And we're thinking of US, Singapore, and Dubai. So that was my main goal of doing this course also. So the university gave me that opportunity in terms of kind of understanding the course with this is what I wanted, because they kind of like list out, every university lists out what subjects are in your course. So that really helped me to take the decision that this is the university I wanted. And that's what I kind of recommend everyone to do. All you got to do is go into any university you select, go into their website, and you can kind of like go to the subjects or the courses they offer, and they give you kind of like a PDF file to show you what exactly are the subjects that course offers. And with the university, especially with the University of Melbourne and this course, currently there's when I was there, it was not there, but for international business, there's like an exchange program that is happening where you get a dual degree from another country. So one of my peers who's recently joined international business at the University of Melbourne is doing international business and is getting a degree from the University of Melbourne as well as from an university in Italy. So that's something which is newly introduced, and a lot of other I know a lot of other colleges or universities don't offer that currently at present for this course. It's more of an MBA thing where you get a dual degree. So I think it mainly purely depends on what you're looking for in terms of choosing the college or the university you want to choose. It depends purely on yourself. And the reason why I told previously, I'll touch upon later, is the ranking. To me, it mattered because I wanted to be associated with a set of people who are like-minded, who carried the same caliber, or maybe say even better caliber than me. So I can learn from them, and kind of for me, that was very important. And not saying that universities that rank lower don't have that. It's just that the set of people that come in, the mindset that comes into this, I feel has a kind of a big role in the ranking system of the university, because the professors we kind of interacted with were like really top-notch professors, and they're very friendly and stuff. So you can walk up to them they're more like your friends and like your buddies rather than like student professor relationship. So yeah, so for me that was also one of the reasons why I wanted to select University of Melbourne as my university. So yeah, so that's a bit about how I went about choosing my course and the university. In terms of the visa and in terms of paperwork and everything, I went through IDP, which is a free service. I'll put down the link once I'm finished into the chat, but I'm pretty sure majority of you have heard about it also. If you are looking to study abroad, they cater not only to Australia, but to any part of the world pretty much in terms of studies. They do pretty much all the work for you from the start to the stop. So they're kind of like a one-stop shop solution for all your problems in terms of studying abroad. They help you even choose universities, help you select courses if you want, but I would say keep that to yourself because they can very easily influence you. And I know people who have been influenced also previously in that space, because currently, a lot of you might already know the current scenario in terms of Australia getting international students is a bit hard. So what IDP or any other agency suggests is that to find courses which would help you get PR. But I personally don't advocate for that, because I believe like what your passion or what you're passionate about is what you should go with. And after that, whatever comes is just a kind of like a given thing from your hard work. So yeah. So which is what I did. So I basically went to IDP, submitted all my papers. So the main papers you would require are kind of like your results from your undergraduate course. And also, you also have to write something called an SOP, which is a statement of purpose, reasoning why you want to study at that university and why that course. From time to time, the format changes. Time to time, the content in an SOP changes. This is what I did. I would recommend kind of like going online and getting in touch with any of the current students at the particular university you're looking at and kind of ask them what their SOP was stating. Usually this is like a normal written rule that this is what it's meant to have. And based on, like, it does differ from course to course in terms of if you need an SOP, if you don't. Majority courses do require you to write an SOP, but some courses has interviews, some don't. MIB doesn't have an interview, but they did have an SOP requirement and also a minimum threshold of your CGPA. So that's pretty much like on you to keep up your CGPA while you're in your college time and be part of extracurriculars, because all of that can also contribute when you write your SOP, because they do look at not only academics but your extracurriculars. So that will really help you get into or be one step ahead of others or your peers who are applying for the same course at the same university. So yeah. And when you do write your SOP, my little tip is do not use ChatGPT, because personally, when I've sat with the board, we've had that opportunity to look at SOPs and kind of say yes or no. But yes, the final decision is done by the upper management. But unfortunately, there are times where it's very clear that it's written by a ChatGPT, because now we all use ChatGPT, of course. But it's okay to get it corrected, to see if there's any grammar errors or anything like that. But I would say kind of stay away from writing the whole thing and submitting it like that, because there are tools to find if it's AI written and things like that, and immediately get rejected and probably even a blacklisted on your profile, which you don't want, because it would really affect your credibility as an individual also. So yeah, so pretty much once you have all of this sorted out, you give it to IDP, or if you're doing it personally, you can do that also. But recommend IDP because it's a free service. It doesn't take much, and they're pretty swift in their service. They know what they're doing. So yeah, so you pretty much submit all your documents to IDP, and they kind of process the whole this thing, and you get a conditional offer in the beginning if you are someone applying while you're at university and your results haven't come out yet. So once your results come out is when you get the final offer, if you meet that kind of slab or threshold of, if the course does have a threshold for your CGPA. If it doesn't, then you'll immediately get your final offer also. So that's pretty much in terms of applying and things like that. I know it can get a bit raw in terms of talking about these logistics in terms of applying. So yeah, I'm sorry if I'm boring anybody. But that's so once you got into the university, that's when all the boring part and like the dragging part gets over. You get into your desired course. I highly recommend getting into clubs and societies because that's what's helped me get to where I am also. So I'm pretty much a COVID batch when I did my master's. Each university offers about 200 clubs and society. There's about 200 clubs and societies in almost every university. So it is very overwhelming, which I do understand. But I would recommend to be at least part of two if possible. The only reason being because you can take up leadership roles, you can take up roles maybe not at all relevant to what you're studying, which is the best part about studying abroad, because even subjects you can pick up absolutely completely not related. I had a friend who was doing engineering and his experience happened to be in HR. So you can completely take subjects or your in terms of roles in your clubs and societies to whatever you wish. So if you want to expand your space of experience or get into any other field, this is your opportunity also. And in Australia, they do value your extracurriculars, like I said, very much. So being part of other clubs and societies will boost your CV. So not just saying that, oh, you're really good in academics, but having something else apart from your academics really helps too. And that's how you get internships. So that's kind of like also a topic which I'll touch upon a little bit as well. But in terms of work, Gaurav's going to talk a lot in depth about it. So in terms of internships, for me, it was personally, when I was there, I was part of these 4 clubs. The reason why I could do 4 clubs was also because it was COVID time and didn't have to commute, saved a lot of time, had to just jump on meetings, get off meetings. So it was a lot easier to be part of many more clubs. And also I was not working because it was COVID. So it was just basically my studies and clubs. But I know now for students that are pursuing to go abroad and do their masters or undergrad or whatever it is, any in terms of studies, I know it can be a little bit taxing in terms of having to manage your studies, having to work side by side just to make ends meet, and also being part of so many clubs. So it can, and also not only clubs in the university, but also outside. So which is why I recommend maybe sticking to see how you go with one and then maybe go to a second one to see if you want to expand your network. The other side to being part of these clubs and societies is not just being a member, because a lot of times what happens when I say people or what people understand is just being a member or being part of it just to tick that box. That's not the agenda we're trying to do here. It is to be part of that core committee. Someone like maybe say if you want to start off with like I'm in the marketing space, so which is why I'll be talking a lot about marketing. So maybe start off as a marketing officer, or if you want to be in the HR, this thing, start off as an HR exec, something like that. So something small, but just be part of the committee, and then you can climb the ladder as it goes. So yeah, so just being in terms of being in that committee, being in that this thing makes you learn things related to your profession. Also helps you in terms of how to be around people, how to network with diverse crowds, because Australia is very, very diverse. So you'll see all kinds of people from all around the world. So which is really good. And that'll help you in your workplace also. Helps with presentation skills and things like that. So you gain a lot by being in a club. And I'm sure all of you, Christ also offers so many clubs and societies. So we've already had that edge over the rest of the kids. Being part of all of this. So utilize it and continue doing it, because in Australia, to land your internships or say any job, there's something called like a reference process. It's pretty much there in India too, but it's very, very strong in Australia, where once you submit and you've kind of cleared all your interviews, they'll ask you for referees to do a background check and a reference check. So at the university level, if you are not part of these clubs and societies and don't build a good rapport with the higher committee or the upper management in the clubs and societies you're in, or even say with your professors, if you're just one among the 100 students and your professors don't personally know that you're good at what you're going to ask them to say you are, they will not commit. Even though if you say, I've been part of this university, I am your student, you show all the assignments, you show you're really good, they will not vouch for you. So, which is why I personally suggest having that rapport with your professors or with your committee members, because even they can refer you. Even though they are at your level, they can still refer you. Of course, it would be better if someone's above, higher than your level referring you, but if there is no one, your peer could refer you. But for someone to do that, they need to believe that you're good at what you do. So, which is why it's really good to kind of maintain that rapport and be part of the core committee to show that, yes, this is what I do and these people can vouch for me. And this is what, that's personally what I did also. I've also, apart from being in these university societies or clubs, I've put myself outside the university as well. So I was firstly associated with an organization, a charity organization for international students called WICWISE. It was located in Melbourne, and now they've kind of expanded. So they've changed their name to AusWise. So WICWISE was basically Victorian for student and employee service kind of thing for international students. So yeah, so I was associated with them, and then they referred me. I was doing the marketing for them, and then they referred me to another organization, and that's how I got my first part-time gig. Even though it was for a very, very short time, and that's also something I will kind of like talk about. A lot of students do get demotivated when they say, oh, the internship's just for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It doesn't matter. Or the other perspective is, oh, I'm not getting paid. I know it is a very painful process to not get paid and do work, but in Australia, your experience is what matters. And if you can prove to them you're worth it, they will either pay in terms of converting you from an unpaid internship to a paid internship, or if you're a part-time, they'll convert you to a full-time. So it's just that little time you got to hold on to get to the next stage. So yeah, so like I said, being part of these outside organizations will really help you, and also getting in touch with the founders. I was in really good connection with the founder for WICWISE, and that's how I got referred and got my part-time gig initially, which was for a very short time. But that really helped me to move on to my next role, because while I was at university, I was still applying for jobs. So it was about 3 months to graduation, and I was applying for full-time jobs, and I was very devastated, like majority of you will be if you are looking for jobs, that I was not getting anything, and it was COVID, and it was kind of like a layoff period. So people were losing jobs. So it was very hard to get jobs. But I think, personally, what I've reflected from my journey is what kept me aside from others was my experience or my rapport with the people I networked with, that is through university clubs or the outside, which is WICWISE, which helped me land the job in terms of internship. But that helped me get my final one in terms of getting my full-time job. So I was fortunate to I applied through LinkedIn. So I know a lot of questions would be, where do we get the opportunities from? I know it is a very cliche answer, but it is your LinkedIn or your job portals, like in some in Australia are your Seek, your Indeed, and things like that. But I happened to get my first time gig, my full-time job at eBay through LinkedIn, and it was an easy apply through. I just applied it. I was like, you know what, let's see. I don't think it's going to work out because it's an easy apply. And that's what we all think. But yeah, it did work out. So you never know through what ways it would come up. So pretty much once I applied, I'm not sure if you all know, but because I was a student, the opportunity was for a full-time, and applied for a full-time, but they couldn't take me because they wanted someone to immediately fill the role. So what they did is they offered me to start part-time, and after that they said, if you do meet our requirements or whatever, we'll convert you. So yeah, and I happened to get converted, which was a blessing. But yeah, so So there are times where a lot of my peers, what has happened from the experience I've seen is that when someone says, oh, it's a part-time, they would deny the role, or when it's an unpaid, they would deny the role. But personally, from my experience, I would say take it, because you don't know. Maybe it's their way of just checking if you are worth their time, if you are worth their investment. So yeah, so just take it regardless, and you never know what could come. So that's my pretty much my journey. I know I've spoken for a long time, and hopefully I've not bored any of you. But I won't touch too much about, like I said, the professional experience, because my fellow speaker Gaurav has plenty of insights in the professional space, and he's currently working in Australia and also has been there for quite a long time. So I would like to conclude my speech by saying, keep trying, and if there's something that you really want, the doors will open for you. So yeah, I'm happy to take up any questions along with my peer at the end of the session. But for now, thank you. And I'll give it back to Asta.
Thank you so much, Jenslie, for that enriching presentation filled with practical guidance and personal experiences that will certainly benefit all of us here. Now, I would like to call upon our next speaker, Mr. Gaurav Vemala, to share his insights.
Thanks, Asta. Firstly, thanks to the Christ Alumni Office and Rishi sir for making me part of this event. It's really great to see close to 50 of people joining, and it's also encouraging for us alumni who are trying to guide and help on such activities by the university. So thanks for running this again, Asta, and thanks for the intro as well. Ainsley, thanks for putting very good information in terms of the study experience and what to look for and everything. I'm sure it was very useful for students. So yeah, I will be covering mostly on the work side of things, how it is to look for work here, what are the things that we go through, and also a bit of how it is in terms of actual life experience once you get to work after studying. So I'll just quickly brief you on my history and experience in Australia. So I moved here on a partner visa because my wife studied. So that was kind of a semi-student experience because we went through the journey and did everything that a student would, but not personally me, but in my family, obviously. So the challenging situation for me was I had to leave my career back in India and what I'd built and start from zero here, because in Australia, the overseas experience in a lot of sectors is not like valued as much as it would for someone who worked in India, moved states and started to look for jobs. So it's different. The setup is different here, and even the recruiters would look at you differently. Like I had 15 years experience almost when I moved here, but no one would consider my like trading or research experience that I had in India, saying that is equivalent to having the experience in local markets, because Australian market looks for local experience. And even now, like say when I see some graduates who have had 1-2 years of experience, when they apply for jobs, a lot of recruiters say, oh, maybe we need that exact experience in the local market before they put you up for an interview with the company. So a lot of things like that are very different from when you hear from afar, when you're not on the ground. A lot of things are different when you graduate and when you start looking for jobs and making a life here. So my context will be in that background today, in terms of what all you might have to look for in terms of important things, and also not to discourage you, but to give you as much as information to make it more practical and also not to make mistakes like a lot of us would have done in the past. So you might be wondering, like I gave you my example, but what are the other situations where people would move to Australia, for an example? So all of your students, you're looking to move as a student. Obviously, you'll study here and then have a plan to live here through like other visa options or like skill migration and things like that. So Australia gets most of the immigrants as students, and then is professional migration, like skill migration. People might move in from companies like tech companies or other companies. They would get sponsored by those companies and they would straight away start their job here. And another one is family related migration, like someone might get married, or like myself, I was married, but we moved here because my wife wanted to study. So family related migration is also a decent number as well. And in terms of currently in Australia, in terms of if you want to know about the diversity in terms of the population here. British people are the biggest immigrant numbers here, and next is China, and next is India. India is catching up very fast. They might be beating Chinese immigrants here, and that is one of the good encouraging things, because culturally it's very deeply accepted in terms of local people understanding Indian culture and Indian immigrants. That's a good thing that has developed over the last 5-10 years that I've observed. In terms of me personally getting to where I am, it was, I would say it was a mixed experience. Initially, I had to do odd jobs like how students would. I worked in a Domino's job. I worked in casual hospitality jobs before I got my corporate job. And this was after working 15 years in corporate jobs in India. So first thing, as a student, come with an open mind, come with the mindset where you're ready to do whatever it takes if you want to stay back, because you need to be prepared with that persistent approach, and irrespective of the backgrounds. I know like a lot of students come with different backgrounds. Some of them take a lot of risks, take student loans, and they put their personal career or life on risk sometimes, or some people come here just want to study for 2-3 years, go back, run their family business and things like that. Irrespective of your background, you will go through a lot of you will go through the same things. Like you will have to do a casual job, you will have to do a part-time job, even though you wouldn't want to. Sometimes you'll see everyone doing it, you'll give it a go. So you have to be open-minded to do whatever it takes to keep you sane once you decide to come here, right? And then in addition to what Ainsley mentioned about all the student process and everything, one major tip I would like to give you all is, irrespective of the course you study, university you wish to join, because there's a lot of different things and complicated things involved in the migration process if you want to live and continue to live here in the long term. Because just coming here as a student won't give you that permanent residency option or citizenship pathway. So once you decide your course, you need to go through some online information through either universities or like skill assessment bodies which are there in Australia. If your previous course is actually recognized for a skilled migration process. For example, I'll give you, there was an architect who studied Bachelor of Architecture in India. But once they finished their masters here, when they applied for the skilled migration, which architects were allowed to apply for, and then the body here said, oh, sorry, the architecture you studied under VTU in Karnataka is not recognized because there's only one university in India which we recognize. So basically, they were not eligible for any kind of migration after they studied because they were not aware of such complications until you get here. And these are the small things that students will have a blind spot, because whether you directly apply to universities or through consultants, no one will give you such information which you would experience only on ground. So do a lot of homework even after you get admission into the university, in terms of what might help you and what might be a roadblock for your long-term plan in terms of staying back and migration. And nowadays, a lot of information is available online and also through student bodies, alumni networks like us. So do your homework even after you get an admission. Don't stop there thinking things will fall in place for you, because majority of the students fall in that bucket, and I've seen that. So I think that's a very important thing to watch out for. And now I'll move into different aspects of little things which are known but actually not spoken by a lot of people. I would say practical tips. So graduates, when you look for work, there are different types of work, which even Ainsley was pointing out. There's casual, there is part-time, there is temporary, there's full-time work. And this is not, I mean, India would have similar setups, but it would not be legally framed like this or managed like this in the system of work. So, and even unpaid internships, like she said, and volunteering work while you're in university, all these are counted as work experience. So any kind of work other than studying can be a work experience. So just don't think a full-time work or like a part-time work which students can do is only work experience. Anything can be work experience. So be with an open mind to do whatever is coming across to you and what you could take up with your situation. And when I say casual jobs, which is mostly what students are allowed to do, they vary from working in cafes, restaurants, supermarkets, and nowadays because Uber delivery or Uber driving is also catching up a lot, and they also allow you to study plus be flexible with your working hours. Australia is pretty good with that system. Um, so those are the kind of jobs you can work in, and even campus or university related work. So you can take up assistant teaching, library assistant jobs, research roles within your departments. And these are great to balance your study as well, because it will be within the university. You'll know a lot of, you'll start networking with a lot of professors and students as well. And internships, which Ainsley spoke about, again, there are paid internships during your study course and also unpaid internships. So again, be open, do whatever it takes. And in terms of how many hours or how much students are allowed to work here, currently Australia allows students to work 48 hours for every fortnight. And that is the legal framework they have. And if you breach that framework, you might be at a risk of losing your visa. So you need to be aware of these rules while you're here and before you come here, because this is really this is something that really matters for your study period here, like because you'll be studying and trying to work and everything. And also be wary of very fastly changing rules around student immigration or even work-related immigration. It keeps changing every 1 or 2 years, so you need to keep yourself updated what's happening in that front as well. And I'll move on to some tips or information about how it is in a career, or like career growth and future once you finish your studies, right? So there are various channels. Obviously, once you finish your studies, you can get jobs via graduate programs, which big universities have, but not as big as how it would be in India, to be honest. Graduate programs are usually with tie-ups among companies here and the universities here. So it's like your campus recruitment program, but it is not directly like how it is back in India. I mean, I was recruited to campus recruitment via Christ College for my Goldman Sachs job. That was a massive drive which they do there, and a lot of colleges do there. But here it's pretty tailored or very small groups that go into campus recruitment. Otherwise, they have to directly apply for graduate programs, which companies actually put up on their websites. A lot of companies do that. They have yearly graduate hiring program that is not done in partnership with the university, but that is done as an independent activity which the company does. And a lot of big companies like KPMG or consultants and finance companies like Commonwealth Bank, Macquarie Bank, and even tech companies, they all do graduate programs. So you would need to look out for the companies that you wish to work for and know if they do a graduate program or not, and also know what time in the year they do it, because not everyone do it at the same time when you graduate, and around that time it will be different periods. So all these things really matter when you want to look for a job as soon as you graduate. And other options are obviously look for online jobs, networking through your peer students or people who you know, alumni, or even any kind of reference you have. Personally, and I'm sure even Ainsley touched on this and would agree, in Australia, having networks and referrals are the biggest and most effective way of even trying to get an interview. I personally got an interview at ANZ, which was my first job here, through a person who I had never met, but I had only started speaking to him over the phone because one of my friends connected me to him. And I was applying to a lot of roles. Directly, I would never get interviews. And this guy said, hey, look, if you apply to ANZ, just let me know. I'll just put a word, because if I say I know you, they will call you for an interview. And that's how I got an interview. He wouldn't get me a job, but he would at least help me get an interview. So working on your referrals and networks are very important. And that's one of the easiest way to at least put forward your profile to some work or employer. So focus on that as well. And obviously, again, usual online networks, LinkedIn profiles, and everything needs to be updated. And in terms of joining student associations or industry clubs, obviously, again, being from India or culturally, you might be focusing on or getting comfortable to your own networks, like say part of an Indian group or part of some other community groups. but that won't cut it. A lot of times you need to be part of clubs and associations which are not just our own communities or clubs. You have to be open to mingling with international or overseas groups or even local groups and be part of it actively. That helps a lot too. And in terms of work while studying, a lot of them do. I think 80-90% of the students work while they study here. And Australia is very good in terms of minimum wage. It has one of the highest minimum wage per hour that gets paid to students, which is currently around $24 an hour. So if you work 48 hours, which is the legal limit every 2 weeks, that is close to $1,000 to $1,200 every fortnight, and which would cover most of your cost for living. And just to give you an idea how much is the cost of living for students here currently, not from my experience, but currently it varies from around $2,500 to $3,500 a month, which sounds very expensive, to be honest. No one will give you a perfect picture, but I want to be brutally honest, not to scare you, but to give you the reality. So you have to prepare for that as well when you come in as a student, whether you're personally funding it or plan to work and earn your living as well. So depending on which city, Sydney is the most expensive currently, followed by Melbourne, then Brisbane, then Perth, and Adelaide. Obviously, the cost of living varies a bit, but like I said, the range is from 2,500 Australian dollars to around 3,500, depending on your lifestyle. So for basic living, you'll still need around $2,500 a month as a student. And then when you work on weekends, again, Australia is very liberal for paying you extra if you work on a Saturday, on a Sunday. And a lot of students usually work on weekends because that's when they can cover more hours and stuff. And weekend work is paid very efficiently in terms of how much you can earn, I would say. Sometimes Sundays you'll get paid like double than what you earn on a weekday. So it's pretty good for students who are looking for such jobs. That's encouraging as well. In terms of work-life balance as a country compared to US, UK, elsewhere, and Australia, Ainsley would agree too. I think one of the best countries. There's no stress. If you want to succeed, you can succeed. You want to put the hours, you put the hours. So it's like an open field, right? Like it's not super competitive, but it is competitive. But if you really want to make it, you can make it. So work-life balance is there as a system generally. That's why they have that work limits where students can work only 48 hours. Obviously, it is also a system where to ensure you don't overwork and kill yourself and not be able to study also. And then everything can be planned around your studies as a student. So that's the system is pretty supportive in terms of your university understanding. If you're working and also studying, they would also support you in a lot of things which you might not think of until you get here. So that's pretty good. And culturally, it's pretty good when you can communicate well. Aussies are a bit weird in terms of the English they use. Initially, a lot of students get really shocked in terms of understanding the short names or shortened versions of how they communicate. But they're pretty easy, pretty chill. I would come back to this topic of around, how a lot of anti-immigration protests are happening. I'll cover that at the end just to show you how things are. But if you communicate well and if you're not shy to ask, I think Australia is one of the best countries where you can actually build a rapport, because the people here are really confident, right? And they don't mind anyone asking them anything for that matter. Like only asking is the best way to live here. And again, I'm telling out of experience in personal life and work life. So ask whatever you want, even if it's the most stupidest thing, or even if you wouldn't never ask, even if your family member, it's okay, just ask. and at workplace, people are very friendly on a general note. There might be a few issues where you might not be like treated well, I would say, but maybe that is like 1% of the entire population, I would think. And there might be some different, I would say, you might feel unfair, like, oh, other people are getting a head start and all of those things. But if someone starts off that way, you'll only look for those things. But as a culture in Australia, it's hard to find it in a macro level. Most of the corporates are very easy very diverse, very culturally supportive. And for example, like I think last year the Diwali celebrations in Australia overall, I think most corporates celebrated Diwali, except giving them a holiday. Everyone like ordered food, they celebrated with Indians and let Indians like run the events and everything. Like culturally, they're pretty supportive, and they're very open, and people chit chat casually as well in the office. It's not a very formal way like how it is in India in a lot of places. So you can build rapport with your colleagues as well. Because I didn't study here personally, my colleagues are my second family because I just work. I didn't study. So pretty good people are pretty friendly. You just need to do the right things, which you can also prove you're blending in and adapting into the culture easily. Obviously, that doesn't matter which country you're in. If you do stuff which they're not used to, obviously you will be an outcast. So you have to just watch out for that. And in terms of workplace culture, again, hierarchy is a uh, very unimportant thing, I would say here. Yes, there will be a CEO to a normal graduate, but they try to keep the hierarchy very lean. They don't have 20 managers above you or departments to manage things. It would be like 5 to 7 maximum, and each of us would be talking to each other with names. No calling sir, madam to anyone, like a few countries as well. And it is open culture. I can walk up to my seniors anytime. Even if I'm upset with something, I can talk to HR and complain about my own manager. That's all very good here in terms of legal framework of how office cultures are managed as well. Teamwork is very good. Aussie people are very friendly, and they support each other very well in terms of building what they want as a team, and also supporting you in terms of adversities. Like say, I had a baby recently, and the support me and my wife have been getting from my colleagues in terms of if I have to take a day off suddenly, or if I have to go on half a day suddenly without any notice or plan. Sometimes they don't judge you. They're very supportive because they understand personal life is as important as your career. So that's pretty good. Respect is pretty good for people who gel into and adapt well. Obviously there will be outliers. If you misbehave, they will not be friendly to you. So it's pretty good. And the government here is very supportive in terms of being they want to curb racism very openly. They have a lot of programs, they have a lot of signages, and universities run a lot of even events and programs to make international students comfortable, because racism is not accepted here. And it is very explicitly marketed, and even they run ads on media as well that racism is not appreciated and supported by the government. And a lot of times, if you are kind of uncomfortable, you can report it straight away to the police. There are situations where they take action as well. So in terms of respect and supporting diversity and culture, it's pretty good system here. I think I've covered most of the things I had to. I would just conclude my chat saying there are two things you need to look out for after graduating. One is a short-term survival, what you want to do for the next 2-3 years after you graduate, and one is a long-term growth. Do you want to build your life here, build your work experience, build your networks, and also focus on what are the pathways you want to take, whether it is like a work-sponsored visa or a skilled immigrant based on your own personal profile, or do you want to go back to India and come back here to like a partner? Like it's left to you, right? But you need that vision when you come down here. It's hard when you come down as a student because you wouldn't think a lot of things. But I think being part of alumni networks like this helps you get a lot of inputs, like how you would have got today. I hope my inputs were useful, and I would continue to help any of you who want to get in touch and get more information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable insights. At this point, we would like to open the floor for a Q&A session. I invite participants to share their questions in the chat box, and we'll take them up for discussion with our speakers. I think we already have a few questions in the chat box.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can look me up on LinkedIn. I can connect with you any of you. Yes.
Do you want us to read the questions and answer it ourselves? Okay, sorry, didn't get that. Okay, so the first one Gaurav answered. So what countries, or what are the countries who are looking for migrants for jobs directly? Thanks, Nirmal. But unfortunately, I haven't heard of any countries doing that. But the ones which I can think on top of my head, only because I know one of my recent friend has gone, who directly is looking for migrants, would be current scenario UAE, which is Dubai, to be very specific. They do offer work visas, and they are currently directly looking for people um, for jobs. But in what space? It would be engineering. I've not heard much about marketing. I've heard about HR. I've also heard about healthcare, of course. In terms of UK, Australia, Canada, Germany, all other countries, they used to take people directly for jobs, but unfortunately, because of the current environment, it's not as much as it used to be. But you can still try. Like Gaurav mentioned, you can directly try with applying for a job, in terms of reaching out to companies, applying, and then seeing. But the chances are very slim currently because of the current environment. But that being said, once the elections are done, once all the political games and agenda are over, I'm sure they'll be open things again for migrants so you can apply for jobs directly. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Nirmit, to your question, is Christ University globally recognized for getting jobs abroad? Won't there be any complications? So in terms of this, I think best way is to check the university website and information itself. In terms of, for example, if you're studying Bachelor of Business Management and you want to apply for some migration visa here, right? So you would need to first check. There are websites and online information where you would know if the university is recognized. For example, if some courses in Bangalore University are not recognized, I mean, this is from my experience, but because Christ is a deemed university now, you can also interact with the alumni office. They would help. I think they could help you get more information on that. Along with, I would say, do your homework first on the university you're trying to apply, and kind of the visa you're trying to look for, or like skill migration body, which would assess your profile. So you would need to do some homework on that. In terms of if Christ is currently recognized or not globally, I'm sorry, I don't know that, because I was not part of the Christ deemed university conversion. I studied under Bangalore University, so I don't have much knowledge on that. And then, can you help me on the roadmap with to get a job abroad directly? I think no. I mean, personally, it's not as easy as it sounds, unless you know someone here, you're moving, and even then, I would say it's like next to impossible to get jobs directly in the current world, where every sector is tight and everything. Is it mandatory to do masters? If you're studying bachelor's in India and moving here, again, it has to be on a skill migration or work sponsored visa if you're not studying masters. So if you're studying masters, then that's one of the pathway you can get here to Australia. Yes. And then, any minimum number of years of experience required if directly looking for jobs abroad? Again, I am sure if you're directly applying only for jobs, yes, you would need some work experience to prove. Like, say, for example, there are sectors like cyber security, AI, and machine learning now, which is really trending and which is really in shortage of professionals. So such skills where they're really shortage and trending in a lot of countries, not just Australia, they would consider you if you have some work experience, but you would need to go through like job consulting companies who are set up in India and they have offices abroad and things like that. So that's the way you can go directly for jobs abroad if you're not trying to study and then get a job. Then, how to identify fake jobs for abroad? I've heard about this. It's been happening a lot lately after COVID as well, because we're more in a digitized world now. I think how to identify is obviously a few things which you might have heard among your network. Like, there are a lot of scams nowadays where they say, we love your profile, can you chat to us, and then you would need to sign up by paying like 50,000 rupees, will help you get a job. So that's one of the red flags. No one will ask you money upfront to find a job for you. It's your career, right? And what are the countries looking for migrant jobs directly? Again, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. You would need to work with consultants. I think I covered first few questions. We'll move on to the next ones.
Yep. Okay, so the next one is, while applying for jobs via LinkedIn, what is appropriate in selecting when the question is asked? Do you require sponsorship in future? Yes or no? I would say be honest about it, because even if you say no and they come and they get to know that you do require sponsorship, they'll reject your application. So just be honest about it. If you need it, say yes. If you don't need it, say no. The other one is, oh, please scroll up or down, as I've mentioned a lot of questions. Nirmat, I
Yeah.
think we've answered all, but do let us know if there are any other questions.
No, actually, Gaurav covered all those things
Perfect.
because you were answering the first question, right? So then I mentioned because you just saw the last question and then answered that.
All good. All good. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, just one thing. Please share your LinkedIn profile link so that I can just connect with you.
Will do. Absolutely. We'll do that.
Excuse mom.
Yeah.
Shivani here, mom. I had a doubt, like for the paperwork, you mentioned the website consultants. Could you
Yeah.
just put that in the chat
Sure.
box?
I will do that right now.
Thank you, mom.
That's okay. There are multiple agencies. This is just the one I've used, but happy for you to do your own research and see what you're comfortable with. But this is one of the ones I've used. And I know for a fact they're free. When I've used it, I don't know if they're taking any charges now. So please do check before you do commit, because you don't want to commit and then they charge you something for it. I do know there are a lot of agencies which say they'll give you a job, they'll give you a hand, they'll get you a course and everything. Majority of them who claim that is a scam, because agencies can't help you get a job, agencies can't help you find a course or give you a course and things like that. It's only from a university through official websites. So yeah, so just watch out for that.
And one more thing I would like to add on this topic is, nowadays there are a lot of tier 2 universities other than this top league university which have been there for like 50 years or 100 years. So a lot of smaller universities have started marketing in India and a lot of Asian countries. They're still giving you a coursework and give you a certificate, but be mindful because I've seen some students, they just want to study abroad, they would join into such universities. And even consultants push for these because they get high commissions on such things. And those universities are okay, they will give you a degree, but it's not much recognized or respected in the local market. So you would just have a degree, but you would not stand out to any other person who's done it from a bigger university. So we be watchful on that as well. And on IDP, I would like to say it's an Australian, very, very highly Australian focused consultancy, and they do have a lot of free resources as well, like Jenslie said. And among the big ones, IDP is one of the credible and trusted ones for Australian study.
Yeah.
And Purvi had a very good question. I think we both should take this, Jenslie. I'll just start on it if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
What are some drawbacks or struggles of studying masters? You'd studied, but I can also pitch in terms of what I've seen and gone through. Drawbacks or struggles, I would say first, I would not say a drawback, because obviously it's an education which you're continuing. It would not hinder you or harm you in any way. But is there a struggle while studying masters in Australia? Yes, 90% of them struggle. Not just to study. Studying is your choice and your skill, but going through that 2 years program, leaving everything, leaving your family, leaving your friends, and living by yourself, not knowing what next, is itself a big struggle. Because as soon as you come in, after 3 months, you will be like uncertain about a lot of things, right? What will I do after studying? Will I get a job? Will I get a job in what I study? So all those things which become uncertain is a big stress and a struggle for you, because you will have to work a lot to sort out every aspect of it, right? So I think that is one of the biggest struggle, facing your uncertainties and actually solving them. And apart from that, it will throw a lot of struggles at you. So obviously, finding a right roommate, finding a right room, finding a right internship, job, etc., and doing a job that pays you well, doing a job that you're happy earning, and all that. So all these struggles, which most of the students go through, and Jenslie would have gone through that as well.
Yeah, just to add to that point, thanks, Gaurav. I think is also managing your studies along with work, which Gaurav's already mentioned, which a lot of students really struggle with, especially finding one is also stressful because it's not easy to find a casual job, even though it sounds easy. Oh, I could just work in a supermarket. It's very, very competitive out there in terms of finding a casual job because everyone wants something because it pays so well. So that's a struggle while doing your master's, kind of like finding the right balance. And I think personally, specific to masters, a struggle is in terms of adjusting to the curriculum because it is very different to Indian curriculum. There are no teachers to spoon feed you, tell you to go here, do that. You're pretty much on your own. And the mistake I've seen my peers or I've done is take it easy, because I've personally had a Bachelor of Commerce background, and then I did international business, and I was like, oh, it should be a cakewalk. And keeping it for the last minute is the biggest mistake kind of I personally did, because the curriculum is very intense and it's very different. So what are the questions what we study would be pretty direct. So say you study ABC, when we are asked in our CIAs or in our exams, they would just change it to CBA. They wouldn't change much. Whereas in Australia or the curriculum, the exam kind of is very different. Even though they teach you ABC, they're never going to ask you ABC. They're going to ask you something completely different. And that was a blow off for me and a lot of my peers. And also, I think in Australia or like just abroad education, understanding that competition is not the way to go about it. There will be a lot of people better than you in different ways, and that's okay. Just accept that's fine. And that's one of the struggles I personally felt, because for me in university, I felt like, oh, I was good. I felt confident. Whereas while I was doing my master's, I didn't feel that in the very beginning, because I felt there were always people better than me around me, which is okay. And I think accepting that is also super important. So that's something I personally struggled with, and accepting failure. The fail percentage in terms, it's like failing a subject is not the end of the world. I've had friends, mates who've some of the courses or some of the subjects are really, really intense and technical that no matter how much you do, it's just not meant to be. And we've had friends who've really mentally been affected because of the failure. Because I know when you fail in Christ, it's like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Whereas if you fail abroad, there's nothing. It's just because it's very different in terms of them testing you. They're not. It doesn't mean you're a failure in life. It just means in that space, you've just not been able to grasp as much as you had to. So I think that's the biggest struggle, and just navigating through that. So yeah.
Few more questions that are coming. Ainsley, I'll just see what I can answer and let you go through the rest. Bhavya, you have a question about becoming a psychologist, and you've done BSc psychology or pursuing it currently. Personally, I don't have much info, but I have two of my friends who've had it, and one of them is a Christ alumni, and she had studied psychology back there, and she's also working as a psychologist here. So to your question, yes, good point there. You would need to work and check more information if your course is recognized by the society here. And in terms of if you need further information, try online. If not, get in touch. I'll connect you to the 2 or 3 people I know who are working in the sector, who will be perfect like people to give you more information.
Yeah,
and
I don't think much to add to that, because I personally don't have experience or knowledge in that space.
Okay, great. And then Sai Narendra, he has a question about income tax. Very good question. If you're looking to work here, let me brief you on that, because I've worked here for a very long time. So yes, it is very highly taxed here, and compared to India, yes, it is a lot more. But again, similar to India, you have income tax slabs here, but the highest tax bracket is pretty high. It's like 50% for doctors and people who have very high income. It is very high here. So if you're a graduate, or even if you're like an experienced professional like me for 5, 10, 15 years, it's not massive, because I would say after paying net tax, that is based on all your slabs and everything, you would still pay around 20 to 25% max, like for a lot of jobs that we take up here. Unless you're like a surgeon or someone who's earning more than $500,000, you'll be very highly taxed. So it shouldn't be a major concern if you're trying to build a career, I would say, because the net tax is not massively different to India. And only thing is you don't have any deductions like how it is in India, where you can claim a lot of sections by investing your savings into different products. Australia doesn't have that because the system here provides you a lot of benefits for the tax you pay. You have Medicare system, and then and the infrastructure is amazing. If you have a family and going to school, you have free public schools. So you will get the bang for buck for what tax you pay. So it shouldn't be an issue here. And then I think, Ainsley, maybe you can take the question from Divya about key skills for graduates.
Sure. The pay scales vary, again, very much on your profession, but I would say roughly the average would be for graduates would be about $55,000 annually for any management courses. But if it's any technical, then I think they start from about $65,000-$70,000 per annum. But yeah, like if you have experience, all of that differs, but this is a very, very base rate. 55 is the bare minimum in pretty, $55,000 is the bare minimum you get. So yeah.
Okay. And Divyashree has a question on what key skills employers are looking for. I mean, as an employee, I do interviews sometimes, so I'll just pitch in a little bit, then you can also pitch in. Generally speaking, that compared to other Western countries, they're not super like particular about your technical knowledge. And a lot of times in interviews, sometimes graduates are surprised they don't even get asked about what they know in terms of their technical knowledge. It's most half of the weightage is to your confidence, to the way you are as a person, and half might be based on how competent the job is. They would definitely ask you some technical expertise. But unlike a lot of Indian jobs where we apply, 80% is technical knowledge and what you've studied and qualification. To give you an example, a lot of times here in Australia, there's a new trend where you don't need to have a bachelor degree. You don't need to have a prior experience in the same sector. All they want is a person who can solve things and are confident to do things. So a lot of hiring is happening in those aspects as well. So graduates, again, if how well you can adapt, what you can do to survive, will you be a good fit to the culture? So that's what they look at most of the time.
Completely agree. Just to add, I think in terms of key skills, it's just the mindset that you bring, because that's what I've seen personally when I've worked in Australia. It's even if you have absolutely zero technical knowledge, or especially in the marketing space, I'm not talking something related to data or like, which require technical assistance, but in the management space or in the business space, it is the way you kind of, the mindset you come in. Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to kind of incorporate into their work culture? That's one of the skills that in the management or the business space they look for. So yeah, which finance roles in Australia are in demand right now? Unfortunately, I don't know this answer, but Gaurav, do you have any insight on this one?
Yeah, I'll take that. I work in the investment space, so I have a bit of idea on it. Most of the time, until now, there was a big demand for accounting jobs. So most of the accounting graduates would get jobs in consulting firms like KPMG and Deloitte and all of them, and even banking sector would employ them. But now it's not in big demand, the accounting sector. And within finance, if you're looking, it's a very tricky thing because there's no single shortage in the finance sector. But when graduates who are looking for finance jobs, they do still get junior jobs in terms of graduate research roles in equities, investment banking, private equity. They get graduate roles in banking as well. So it's pretty vast, and nothing I can point out to that is in high demand. But I'll just cover a few high demand sectors if that helps a few of you. Cybersecurity, AI, machine learning, mostly IT and digitization related is in high demand and shortage. And medicine, anything medicine related is in high demand. Hospitality is in high demand, and environmental science, sustainability, that is in demand. So these engineering, most of the courses are in high demand. So these are the kind of things that is trending in Australia, and the government is pushing to give visas as well.
Great. I think the next question is there something like WES for Australia specifically to know if my credits or degree is sufficient for the university? I am not aware, but I think the best way to go about it is if you're going through any agency like IDP, they can verify the details for you, or getting in touch, like Gaurav said, with the Christ alumni or any other career support in Christ, would be able to help you to know if your degrees or your credits are kind of like valid. So, yeah. The next one is, could you please share their information? I think, Gaurav, that's specifically to the person you spoke about the
Yeah,
psychology.
I'll do that.
Gaurav will be doing that, and also he'll be sharing his LinkedIn as well. What are some technical skills that you would recommend to secure a job in Australia? It purely depends on which role you're kind of looking at in terms of technicality. I think currently, because AI is all over, this thing, I'm any AI tool would help you if you're kind of looking in the engineering space, or say coding or programming. Any of those technical skills will help you, but unfortunately, we would need to know what role you're looking at to help you to say these are the technical skills you would need. So, yeah, unless you want to add something, Gaurav, that you know.
No, I think you hit it right. It's fine. I think, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Asta, you can take one last question because I have to go to. And
Yeah.
I keep. Yeah.
All good. Okay, we'll take the last one. You can shoot it up if you have any other questions or this thing, feel free to message us on LinkedIn. We'll try getting to many of you as much as possible. But yeah, but this is the last one. Also, one thing I've noticed since I began my first semester for bachelor's 2 months back, we usually are able to score 16 out of 20 at max. That's the highest for our CIA. But I'm concerned whether universities in Australia are aware about this or not, as scholarships depend on our CGPAs. And here they say that such scores are what we get in college, which is totally different from CBSE, wherein at school we have the possibility to score full or about 95%. I can answer this to some extent. Yes, Christ has a higher in terms of what they give. Their bar is a little more higher than the remaining, but I don't think that will personally affect you, because they screw when your total CGPA comes, it kind of screws among the rest of the kids. So when the university gets a bunch of applications from Christ, everyone would be in the same bracket unless there's a very big difference. So that's how they know that the ranking or the scoring system of Christ differs from other universities. So you shouldn't have any issues with that affecting your application. But that being said, if you can't kind of counter argue saying that because Christ scoring system is hard, which is why I scored less. But if your peers are getting higher than that, then that's something you'll have to work on personally with your tutor or your professor, and talk to them how you can improve and reach that average among the rest of the class, because that's what universities look at. But apart from that, if the overall average is the same, you're fine. It shouldn't matter. So that wouldn't affect your scholarships. That wouldn't affect anything as such. In terms of scholarships, it depends. Again, it's a very completely different topic. And I know we are already over time. So it depends from course to course and what this thing is. So if you have concerns in terms of it affecting, I would say get in touch with your professor. Say, this is what I'm trying to do. How can I better? So they'll help you in terms of how you can better your score. Hopefully that answers the question. But unfortunately, that's our last question. But feel free to message us on LinkedIn or get in touch, and we can help you from there.
All right, thank you for the thoughtful questions, and a special thanks to our speakers for addressing them with such depth and clarity. As we come to the close of the first ever Christ Alumni Global Connect webinar, I take this moment to express a heartfelt gratitude. To our speakers, Ms Jenslie George and Mr Gaurav Vemala, thank you for your time, insights, and for representing the true spirit of Christ Alumni, inspiring, resourceful, and committed to giving back. A special note of thanks to the Vice Chancellor, Reverend Father Josie C., Reverend Father Josie P. George, Dr. Johnny Joseph, and Mr. Brigadier Jagdish for their constant guidance and vision in strengthening our alumni engagement.